From the center of Metro Nui right to your home, this is the Bionicle Inspiration Series, and today we're talking all about Dark Hunters. There's been a bit of a spike in Dark Hunter themed mocks on the internet recently because there's been a few collabs, but there's also some other different Dark Hunter mocks that I wanted to cover. So this isn't necessarily a collab spotlight, but there are a bunch of others out there. So be sure to check the links in the description and check out some of these mocks and see all the other ones that are part of these collabs and all the other stuff that they've got going on, because there's a lot of good ones out there right now, and it's always a good time to talk about Dark Hunters. But what is a Dark Hunter, you ask? Well, thank you for asking. I will answer. This is me reading from the Bionicle Wikipedia about what exactly a Dark Hunter is. And I think a quote from their leader, the Shadowed One, sums it up pretty good. It says, "Picture beings with the power and the organization of the Toa, yet unfettered with their consequences or morality." That's pretty good. So it goes on to say the Dark Hunters were an organization of bounty hunters, thieves, and warriors. Pretty simple, pretty cool. Yeah, I always kind of just looked at them as like bounty hunters from Star Wars, but in the Bionicle world. They're the cool dudes who don't really belong or fit into any of the sort of main Makuta or Toa. Good guys or bad guys, they're sort of in between, but also sort of kind of more leaning to the bad side. There's a lot of reasons to like them. So we'll begin with those, but just before I do that, hey, I turned comments back on the YouTube channel. So if you want to comment on videos now, feel free to do so. I just looked back over the laws and sort of guidelines and terms and all that sort of stuff for the COPA FTC stuff, because that was the original reason why I didn't have the comments on, was because there's some weird legal stuff with that. But reading over it again, I was like, no, these laws have changed since the last time I read them, or at least the guidelines have been sort of altered in some fashion. I was like, no, actually, I can switch some settings around and stuff. So comments back on, you can search on videos, you can make your own playlists again, and I think you can hit the notification button. I don't know, you can do a lot of stuff you couldn't before because of old weird YouTube stuff, but that's in the past. We don't need to worry about that. So hey, comment on the videos again, because that was always something I really enjoyed, and it was a shame when that disappeared, but it's back. So hey, awesome, enjoy. Anyway, enough of updates and things. It's time to talk Bionicles. The very first mock we've got today is by Matt Goldberg, and this is called the Vanisher. So pretty much every mock I'm going to be showing you today is based off of some of the canon Dark Hunters from the Bionicle world. You can check them out on the Bionicle Wikipedia, Biosector, all those sort of different lore-based Bionicle websites. For the most part, all of them had images. Not all of them. The majority of them, if I'm not... I think I'm correct in saying, were based off of like a contest that LEGO held ages ago. And basically, back in the day, they asked fans to make their own versions of these characters, and the ones that LEGO liked the most, they would make that mock like the official, model that would be the representation of that character, which is really cool. This is what Vanisher looks like. This is the original model image of Vanisher. Some of the images, unfortunately, for all these characters are not very good quality, mainly because I believe they're in a book all about Dark Hunters, a book that I have. Wherever I put it, it's somewhere around here. Long story short, I'm going to show you what these characters originally look like and how these people have reimagined them. So with this version of Vanisher, it has a lot of the same sort of beats or kind of color scheme or just sort of little subtle notes and things that the original one had, but it has altered it. Matt here has altered it quite drastically at the same time. So some of the stuff that immediately grabbed me about this is, well, one, the really cool edits. I like the fact that he's given him these cool sort of magic effects as if his name is the Vanisher. It makes sense that, hey, maybe he has some power over like portals and stuff, and he, vanishes through these portals and travels around and does cool stuff. It makes sense. I really like that. And also, really cool little fire technique here, which I've talked about in the past, but I may as well talk about once again. This is it's kind of an annoying technique, because you can't really do it with the modern fire pieces. You need to buy some of the older ones. But basically the way it works is you can actually connect these fire pieces, for the most part, pretty legally. It's kind of a technique that doesn't necessarily put any strain on the pieces. Basically, looking at this little picture here, there's these two little stubs on the edges of some fire pieces. Modern fire pieces, unfortunately, these stubs have been removed, which is annoying. But if you have some of the older versions, you can actually fit those stubs into the little nook at the very top there, or sort of in the middle of that fire piece. And so here's the, two of them sort of together like that. And so you can connect them pretty long. It's actually a fairly sturdy connection. It's not brittle at all, really. So yeah, if you want to do something like that, you can achieve something pretty cool like this here. Get some cool kind of rings of fire or sort of swirls of fire and stuff like that. If you're still a little confused about that technique, I did attach a link in the description to an article on, I believe it was classiccastle.com. So if you want to read a little bit more about how that works, there's a whole article there where I got some of these pictures from for that. So by all means, check that out. But yeah, I think that looks cool. And I think it really enhances this mock too, just to see it with these cool sort of effects and different things. It looks very, very nice. Another thing I quite enjoy about this is the inclusion of the Zurg cape, which it didn't really have before. Of course, Zurg being from Toy Story, and this was an older Toy Story set that they released, which had a really unique cape, which had that cool kind of popped collar. I really like that popped collar because there's something kind of sinister about it. It kind of makes it look like some sort of weird, like, devil mage, sort of slightly kind of like sleazy evil dude, perhaps. You know, it kind of reminds me of like Dracula to some degree. You know, a lot of different sort of evil motifs that it kind of plays into, and I think it really gives a lot of flair to Vanisher here, especially with those devil horns as well, which he has added, which wasn't really originally a part of the original one per se, but I think it's a very nice addition. It makes him look a little bit more... I kind of see him as almost, in this specific interpretation, as like sort of like an amateur magician who... maybe isn't actually that good at what they do, but they're a little cowardly. They use their spells to throw up a smoke bomb and run away from battle and stuff. I don't know. It's just this cool, like, kind of sinister, evil aesthetic, but also kind of like, I don't know, this sort of slight sense that maybe they're not that good at what they do. I don't know. That's at least what I'm seeing here, but I think the inclusion of the cape and the horns does add a lot of personality and a very unique flair that the original version didn't have, that this one does. And I think it ties into the name very fittingly, so that's awesome. One little tiny detail that I also quite like about this, if we take a look at the inside of the lower arms, we can see kind of how it's connected just on a white Hero Factory bone piece with that purple armor connected into it. But on the other side there, we can see that purple flipper piece that is just sort of filling up that space a little bit there. Quite a nice little detail, very subtle, very small, but it does. I think it goes a long way. And you know, that can always be something if you're making a mock with primarily CCBS pieces like this. From the front, it can look really nice, but sometimes from the back, it doesn't look as good because, you know, Hero Factory armor only kind of covers the one side, not the other. So putting in a little detail like that, I think, is just a nice way to make the mock a lot more viewable from a 360-degree view. It's very nice little detail there. So love your work, good sir. Let's move on to the next mock now. This is by Poor Disadvantaged, and this is called Ravager. So let me show you the original Ravager. It's very, very different. Some of these Dark Hunter images of the official models are a little dated. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but you can certainly tell when they were made, the sort of year that they were made, the pieces that were available, which I want to say was maybe like 2004, roughly. I don't know the exact date. I'm always a bit rusty with my dates. It's like a history exam. I don't remember what year all these different wars and things started in. It's much like the Bionicle. I just remember the themes. Anyway, obviously it looks like a much, sort of older mock. Some of the models look stunning. They still kind of hold up today. Some of them a little bit less so. Not that that matters, Different people build different things, and hey, this is the canon model. What are you going to do? But I think that is a really fun challenge to do. If you read up about some of these Dark Hunters, you look at the images that they maybe did or even didn't have. Some of them don't have images. It can be cool to just be like, you know what? I actually want to have my own take on this character. And I think what Poor Disadvantage has done here is he's taken this character to a fantastic, brand new, different area. I'm going to read the quote that he put on the description here on the mock when he posted it on Flickr, because I think what he's written here sums up probably a lot of the decisions that he made to make this character what he made it into. So the quote is also from the Shadowed One, the leader of the Dark Hunters, and it says, "What is it that makes Ravager such a charming sort? Is it his stinger tail, whose venom burns like the bites of a million fireflies? His ruthless skill with sword and shield? Or is it that he has never seen two bricks together that he did not want to blow apart? Or a living thing that he did not feel would be better off dead?" So he's not the nicest guy, but I do like that the description mentioned his sort of like venomous, his venomous tail and the like venom and all that sort of stuff. And I like that that's very easily kind of been conveyed here, as a much more sort of prominent tail design, which is quite nice. And in general, this aesthetic of him being really like spiky and big and over the top is fantastic. There is this sort of like, almost sort of like jungle kind of vine aesthetic to how he looks. but it also kind of looks like Poison has just like mutated his body, giving him this massive, big old bulky arm on the one side there. And I don't know, he's almost sort of like lizard-like too, to some degree. I love that idea. So I like that he's really kind of played upon the idea that he has sort of venom-like attacks, and the idea that that venom has probably taken a bit of a toll on his body and has mutated him in some fashion. I think that's really interesting. And then I love the additional factor that he's done here to make it look like, you can see how the venom has messed him up, but you can see how his body originally looked too, which is this sort of like red and silver, almost sort of like Toa-like design. I love how he's used that like Onawa claw there in lime and some of these other pieces to make it look like it's sort of slowly crawling over into his body and, corrupting him in some fashion. It's a very, very nice design and a very nice idea in general. It's really cool. And also I think it's a fantastic choice to include that infected Tahu mask there because, it naturally fits the general sort of overtaken with poison aesthetic that this mark has. And that's such a unique and original mask too that it's just nice to see it being used because, I know, you don't see it being used every day. It's a good mask. And I'd kind of forgotten where that mask came from. I knew it existed, but I was like, where did it come from? I found another little article, which I'll put in the description below, so if you want to read it, you can. It's got a lot of information on all sorts of different rare, hard-to-get Bionicle masks. But what it says here about where that Tahu mask came from, it says, this Hau Nuva, in 2003, was made available in blended greens and reds to represent the infected mask worn by Tahu during the events of the Bionicle Mask of Light film. Originally, it was packed with a bundle of Bionicle books, but later production runs of those books replaced the infected Hau with the more common gold mask worn by Lacan in 2004. So because of that, it is a little bit more expensive. So yeah, came with some books back in the day, and people weren't collecting as much back then. So yeah, it's rare, but it's pretty cool. Another little fun factor about it too is just the way that the molding process worked to have that blend of red and green. There's a bunch of different variations of this mask too. So I want to say some of the variations of it are rarer than others. Yeah, you might have one, but I think there's like 4 in total, isn't it? Yeah, there are 4 variants of this mask. Yeah, so there you go. Hey, if you've got one, there's more to collect. It's a really cool mask. It's probably not that cheap. I'm not going to look it up. You can look it up yourself price-wise. But yeah, lovely to see how well it works with the general aesthetic of this mock. It's kind of genius. I really do like that. One piece that this mock uses, and it uses it very well, is the kind of like egg piece, for lack of a better term. These came in the Invasion from Below sets, and they were used as those little jumper beast eggs that sort of hatched and gave birth to them. But they had this really beautiful, like kind of plant life Venus flytrap kind of aesthetic to them. They look very much like some sort of, I don't know, evil mutated rose or some sort of like leaf elements and stuff. And you do see people using them a fair bit in sort of, jungle-themed characters and things. And like I said, this mock does lean itself slightly to having a bit of a jungle-like aesthetic to it. So it's nice to see it being used to kind of fit in with that. But there is also something that does look very sort of mutated and sort of filled with poison that fits the aesthetic of this mock. So I think it's a great idea to use those pieces. Plus, they were naturally quite kind of like flexible. They were almost sort of made out of like a rubber kind of material. So I think in that sense, it's also really smart to use them because you can kind of manipulate and bend them in a very legal way, And yeah, it's just a good piece to kind of play around with, and it has a very nice, unique, distinct aesthetic to it. So it's great to see it being used here so very well. The final little detail that I want to talk about on this really, really well done mock is the general waist design. We see that same egg piece being used as sort of like kind of like a waistcoat over the sort of groin on this mock here. And then we see some of these really cool, like, I believe they were from the set Kazan. I was about to say calzone, but that's a pizza. Calzone. How do you pronounce it? Kazani. Think that's how it's said. Great set. One of my favorite sets. Really, really cool. And yeah, it came with some of those really interesting pieces that were used as like shoulder armor and chest armor on the set, and they've been used here to kind of perfectly blend themselves in as that kind of thigh armor there. Kind of thigh armor, kind of sort of waist armor as well. But just the way that they naturally hug that eggplant piece there is really cool. It's just a really nice sort of visually pleasing look to it. And it really does look like sort of layered armor of sorts. It's just really well done. So I just like the general shaping of that. Really cool. So love your work, good sir. Let's move on to the next mock. This is a mock by Logan W, and this is called Lariska. So Lariska is actually, I think, a really cool character. I ended up building a version of her in the past. I'd happily show you pictures if mock pages still existed and didn't delete all my pictures. But Lariska doesn't actually have any canon images of herself, just sort of descriptions online that you can read about on the Bionicle wiki. And I think it's really cool to always see different interpretations of the character. And this is a very distinct and different one. So this one's a very primarily teal-focused mock here, and I think it looks pretty cool. So there's some fun little techniques going on here. I love this crazy weird hair design using some of those Coley sort of ball pieces or sort of hockey puck pieces, combining that with some of these Mickey-roni pieces, which are the big sort of macaroni-like parts that originally came on that Mickey Mouse set. To this day, I didn't realize they existed in teal. And turns out that they exist in this Vibe City set from the Trolls wave of Lego sets. I've actually not seen this set until right now. I didn't know this existed. I don't know if this I don't know, did it have like a limited release or something? I swear I've not seen this anywhere I've gone in Australia. But it's a cool looking set, and it also looks like it has some of these exact same pieces in that sort of pink color as well. So that's pretty cool. Awesome to see. And I think that makes a really, really effective, interesting, unique head design, or hair design, excuse me. Love how that looks. And I also love how he's integrated a Galador kind of arm piece there as this interesting robotic arm that she's got. Really cool. Really, really cool. Nice little way of just sort of adding a little bit of unique flair to the mock. The other thing that has some unique flair is this beautiful leg design, which sort of uses a bunch of these different McDonald's Matoran sets, or the Mictoran, as they're also called, or the Tuhunga, however you want to... They have many names. But yeah, these feet pieces are, I don't know, they're kind of weird. They're hard to use, at least in my opinion. I feel like most of the pieces, except for the masks on the Mictoran, were difficult to use. But it's great to see them being layered like this to create this really interesting texture and give it this really interesting leg design. It's a thing of beauty. It's very nice indeed. So yeah, some really, really nice designs all throughout this, some great part usages, and overall, a really cool mock. Let's move on now to the next one. This is by Alex Mertens, and this is called Guardian. So Guardian, this was a character that I actually wanted to build my own version of. I actually built a version of Vanisher in the past, a version of Lariska in the past, and I think that was it. There were some others, but we'll talk about them when we get to them in the episode, or just, yeah, there are others. You don't need to know. This is a thing of the past. It's a mystery. Like I said, I'd show you the pictures, but I don't have them anymore. Because like I said, mock pages died. I didn't back up those images. Oops. These things happen. But hey, Guardian was a character I wanted to build, but I didn't have the Cow Gully's mask in trans red to build it. So it took me ages, but I finally bought it on Bricklink, and then never got around to building it. But seeing this, it makes me want to build my own version of Guardian, because Guardian looked really cool in his original form. Really, really cool. Lovely color scheme. Just a great overall aesthetic, especially for the time it was built in. And Alex has built an absolutely banger version of it, if I do say so myself. So, what do I like about it? I love the head design. The fact that he... I can't really tell from this image, but I don't think he's used... I know he has, actually. He's used the... that trans red gully mask there, sort of towards the top, and then it looks like he's got another sort of red, like windshield or trans red windshield piece there, to just sort of make the head design a little bit sort of bigger and larger in that regard. But I think what's so cool is inside that cockpit piece there, he's put a crazy weird kind of like afro piece, a sort of minifigure hair piece there, and it kind of looks like a brain. And I love that idea. I love the idea that you can, his head design is more of a sort of protective shell for this weird, I don't know, crazy weird creature with a brain jar thing. That's awesome. I love that idea. So I think it's a really smart way of reinterpreting the original head design and making it unique. And speaking of a way of making it unique, I love how he's added these much larger sort of horns around the head design there. Great way of sticking it close to the original, but really changing it up and making it your own. So yeah, awesome stuff. Again, the color scheme looks just as good as it originally did on the original mock here. Looks fantastic. I love the general leg design, using these weird metallic silver ball joints. I don't think I've ever seen those before, but they're cool in that color. And just repeating them a whole bunch, whether it's with those other sort of macaroni pieces on the sort of middle legs there. And then this beautiful sort of like piston design that he's used here. That's really cool. You get the sense that he would sort of maybe, I don't know, extend a little bit taller or shorter, or I don't know, it's just this, well-designed sort of robotic suit that allows him to run really fast and perform all these acrobatic skills and different things. I don't know, it's just a nice aesthetic. And the little hints of yellow there, they really pop against the color scheme. It's quite lovely. And again, some more little silver ball joints there on the feet. So just some nice consistency to see those ball joints just repeated all throughout this mock. It's just a nice little repetitive thing that I think goes a long way there. It's cool. Some other stuff I adore on this mock is there's a whole bunch of other little system integrated pieces, mainly sort of on the torso there. They look lovely. And I don't know what's going on with his torso, but he's got some other sort of like internal organs there. That looks cool. It's kind of sort of... I feel like every mock is inspired by General Grievous, but there is an element of sort of General Grievous to that, of this sort of like cyborg-like creation, and you can kind of see some of the original, guts and different things on the inside there. So I love that he's played with that. I think that's a very interesting and beautiful design there. And one last thing that I want to talk about with this is his two weapons. I love his little sort of arm blaster here, and I love the little editing he's done to have these little pew-pew, little fiery things flying out of the gun there. That's lovely. It really does give me sort of typical kind of Lego set vibes, and the wonderful editing on this image here to add that backdrop to it and all sorts of other different stuff there is very, very well done. So, yeah, I love how this just feels like you're looking at some sort of old Lego product image. It's fun. It's really cool. Great job with editing it. The other stuff that he's got here, which also has some good pops of yellow thrown in there, is gorgeous. I love how it sort of tails off at the end there. It kind of reminds me of sort of like an old science fiction sort of ray gun, very similar kind of color schemes, and just a sort of very interesting, distinct sort of shape and color scheme to it. It's, I don't know, it really, really stands out on this mock. It's really striking and really pretty. I don't know what that trans green piece is, though, on the tail end of it there. It looks like it sort of flows down into the staff, like it's almost like a lollipop or something. I don't know, like it's got that circle, it's got that beam. I don't know what that piece is. So Alex, please tell me. I have no idea, but it looks cool. And I think this whole mock looks cool. So a really great way of honoring the original, but really making it your own and really drastically improving on the original too. Love your work. This next mock is by another Alex, but it's Alex Mocks, and this is called Charger. So here's the original Charger. Both of them sort of seem to have that very obvious kind of bull-like aesthetic to them. To some degree, maybe even like Minotaur-like. It depends how you look at it. But I love how Alex has very drastically improved upon the original, really sort of heavily focusing on the more kind of like bull-like qualities and really sort of amping that up in a very nice way. The head design looks so sort of, bull-like, almost sort of like warthog-like to some degree. All these tusks and horns, and even this fantastic mohawk design. Yeah, it's just a sight to behold. It's really, really cool. The chains as well really does give him this sort of like punk rock aesthetic. He does even have the mohawk for that, so that's very fitting and very cool. The slight little detail there to include the a bull shield little kind of necklace thing there. That's a fun little detail and a great way to use some minifigure accessories and other kind of printed pieces to enhance this mock. I think it's a great idea. The shield and his really cool axe as well. I think they're great. I think using that buzzsaw piece as a shield, really simple but really effective. And in general, the sort of really kind of sharp, sleek angles of the kind of like axe that he's got there. Again, it kind of really fits this sort of very strong Minotaur aesthetic that this mock has, and it just looks really cool. And you know what? If it looks cool, you've done a good job. So, love your work here. I think the leg design, too, is fantastic. This almost sort of like robotic kind of Minotaur-like sort of digitigrade leg design there. Really, really cool. Really cool indeed. Yeah, just overall, bang-up job. You've made a fantastic mock, and I think you've drastically improved upon the original, too, and really given it your own sort of personal touch. So, really cool. Next mock now. This is Mimik, and this has been built by Kuhon Shaden. So technically he did build it, but technically he didn't. So this guy here is a pretty cool dude because he's kind of just rebuilt all of the original Dark Hunters. Not all of them. I don't know if he's done every single one, but a good whack of them. And he's been ever so kind as to post instructions for them too. So once again, check the links in the description. Check out this guy here. And any of those original Dark Hunters, if you think they're super cool, hey, he's probably built them and probably has instructions for them. So heck, even if you don't want to build these specific Dark Hunters, by all means, just take a look at the instructions, have a cheeky peek, have a look around, because you might learn a thing or two. You might see some cool designs or cool techniques that you could adapt, or it might just give you a new way of thinking about pieces or something. I don't know. There's always a lot to learn in that regard. So by all means, check out those instructions. I'm not going to show them here because you need to look yourself. Have a look around, study. It's a good idea. So yeah. But yeah, this is the original model for Mimik with some more high quality, beautiful looking pictures, which is lovely jubbly. I always enjoyed Mimik. He was one of my favorites, you know, looking through that book and just studying up on the Dark Hunters on the Bionicle wiki. I thought his design was very visually appealing. I liked his Makuta Pterodax inspired hand design there, using those Avoki Takanuva masks there, but also using the gold Takanuva mask as sort of this interesting design for the head design there. And additionally, his little mouth, which is this sort of like gear-shaped interesting thing. I don't know. I just thought his head design was really unique and different. I don't know. I don't know what it was about Mimik, but he really grabbed me when I was studying this when I was probably like, I don't know, 12 when I was reading that book, probably younger. I don't remember. But yeah, he's a really fun, really cool design. And in this Dark Hunter collab I was talking about, there are some people who've done an updated Mimik. So by all means, check the links in the description, see what those people have done. I'm going to keep talking about those links in the description. You better check them out. But hey, Mimik's super cool. I always enjoyed him. And yeah, I thought it was worth spotlighting this specific builder because of the good service that he's done in providing instructions. And also just cool to see updated photos of these old Dark Hunters as well. So fantastic work, good sir. Let's move on to the next mock, which is also the final mock in this episode. And you've heard about him before. I've mentioned some quotes from him already. It's the Shadowed One, built by Wombat Combat Pictures, Mr. Connor Hoffman himself. So, I do enjoy the Shadowed One. He might be my favorite Dark Hunter, just because he's cool. He has this kind of Anubis-like aesthetic to him. He's awesome. This is the original Shadowed One. A lot of people have debates about whether or not he has 3 legs or 2. Is that third leg at the back a tail or a foot? Is he a tripod? I don't know. But I do like that Connor has made it a tail, because in my opinion, I think he's way cooler if he's a more sort of like Anubis-looking kind of dude. I know that's always how I saw it. But he might have 3 legs, he might not. It's up to you and how you want to build the Shadowed One. And I think Connor's done a fantastic job of building it. I love how he's taken a lot of the sort of original elements of the Shadowed One, but he's kind of refined them, made them a lot more sort of like sleek and compact. The original one had a lot of sort of like kind of almost sort of awkward spacing to it, and you know, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But in this sort of more, you know, modern age of Bionicle building, that tends to be how we sort of build stuff, to make it really compact and not have too many gaps to it, make it very sort of seamless, organic sort of smoothness to the characters. So I think it's great to see it being reimagined in a more sort of modern building style in that regard. I think he's done a bang-up job. The staff's really cool, you know, fairly similar to the original, but it looks nice. I think a staff is very fitting of this character. It does give it this sort of more regal, sort of ruler-like appearance to a degree. And the head design's cool. It's very similar to how the original one looked, but Connor's sort of, yeah, kind of made it look like this more sort of like ornate crown of sorts, and added a few little details here and there to make it really pop, I think. But what has to be the coolest part of this mock here is the laser eyes that he has. I think that's awesome. The idea of giving him this really cool sort of like battle effect like this, just using those lightsaber blade pieces in red there. Brilliant design. It looks so cool. Such a menacing, awesome looking photo here. And I think a great way of illustrating some of the, you know, the power set that this character has. And it's a fairly easy thing to replicate yourself if you want to. So love how that looks. I think that's easily my favorite part of this mock. And you know, we've seen a few people build the Shadowed One. You know, I've done past Dark Hunter episodes in the past. Be sure to check those out if you haven't. But I think that this cool laser eye technique here is what really makes this one sort of stand out and pop, you know? So little sort of subtle stuff like that can really make your mock shine, or really make it stand out from the crowd. So hey, by all means, play around with that sort of general idea or interesting techniques like that, and yeah, it'll look really cool. So there you go. That's the Shadowed One, and that's a whole bunch of different Dark Hunters as well in this episode of the Bionicle Inspiration Series. I hope you very much enjoyed. Hopefully you got a little bit inspired, because that's what we like to do here, is to inspire you to build your own cool Bionicle mocks. So, like I said, check the links in the description, see some of the other stuff these guys have got going on, read some of those articles that I threw in there as well. There's a lot of good resources there. Speaking of resources, some other stuff that you can look into is some of my social media, whether that's my Patreon, where you can get some additional bonus videos, my podcasts. You can hang out with me in a private Discord server. You can just see some of the other things that I got going on. I like to post and chat with the people there. So yeah, worth doing if you're interested in that. Only if you're interested. I'm not going to force you to. And additionally, there's my social media, like I said, so you can see some of the things that I'm working on, some of the Lego stuff that I'm building, and just see all the stuff that I have going on, the things that are transpiring and the doings that are happenings. That's the place to check it out. The other thing that's in the description is the submission email. It's on your screen right now. It's in the description below. Copy and paste it, put it in an email, send it to me. And in that email, be sure to put whatever you want, images, information, whatever you want it to be, whatever mock you want to submit to the show, that's the place to put it. And then one day I'll do my best to put it on the show. But of course, your patience is key. I got a lot of emails to work through. So yeah, definitely have some patience by all means. I did get a few messages now that I turned comments back on. Some people saying like, yo, hey, where's your mock? Where's my mock? I submitted it ages ago. By all means, if I've taken, a year or two to submit it or whatever, by all means, chuck me a message. That doesn't bother me. As long as you're kind. Never bothers me if you want to say something like that. And I'll do my best to sort of bump it up in priority if I can. But also, definitely let me know the email that you used or, any sort of information that was in the email. Because if you're like, hi, my name's Jeff. Where's my submitted mock? And I search Jeff in the email. I'm like, I can't see it. Doesn't mean I didn't get it. But you have to let me know, the mock was called bit or whatever. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to find it. I don't know all your personal details. So do your best to be as specific as you can with the name of your mock or whatever. Anyway, that's it for this episode. I hope you very much enjoyed. Happy building, and bye for now.